Hi, I'm Selena for Who is Jesus today, and I have a few things I'd like to throw out here, and I'm really specifically talking today to schools, districts, educators, daycare centers. Why? Well, because I think I have made it somewhat obvious that I myself have been in the field of education for us some years now, working with different age groups, populations of people in different regions, working with also adults in language development, and even the little cute ones in daycare. I've had a short history there. They are adorable, but making them take a nap, I wasn't too gifted in that. But here's my concern, because I have expressed on this channel, I want to always be alert when I sense that there is some attacks or things that are sinister that are aimed at the vulnerable. Vulnerable populations, when you know things are intentional. Sometimes it's really hard to determine what's intentional and what's not. And one of those populations, of course, are children. And I think that is one now that's on the list for, at the top of the list, to really try and say what is going on in the classroom. There's a time when you send your kids to school and you want to make sure that they can go to school all day and not get into fights, right? Or not be bullied, or not get hurt in school, hurt on the playground, and making sure that every day they return home safe and well, right? That's like the heartbeat of every parent. Most, just about all. But now, having been an educator in the classroom myself, in different types of classrooms, working with students with disabilities, also several students with an IEP, so in fact these students are even more vulnerable in certain capacities. Well, some of the things that are being discussed and taught in schools today, again, this heightened a behavior of sexualizing children, this sexualization that has invaded the curriculum in the classroom, and especially in writing and literature. I am not physically now involved with schools, and it's something that I have been contemplating, but I do have my drawbacks, and you can imagine why. It's just against my heart, the spirit of God that is in me, and integrity, that I am not going to go along with creating lesson plans and curriculums for children that is very explicit about sexuality and their preferences, and these descriptive adjectives to young people. Here's what I am really asking out there to the boards. Why? We have to do background checks. I can tell you, I've done several background checks. I've done background checks to make sure I have myself no history of hurting children, and making sure that I'm not on the list with the federal government for something. And so you know how it is, right? Everyone, if you in certain jobs in banks, etc., you work in finances, you're working with vulnerable populations, children, you need a background check most of the time. But they are very intentional that you cannot work in a school if you don't go through your background checks, your fingerprinting. But then you have now some of the teachers in the classrooms. What are they teaching? I mean, in the literature that's in the library. This is not health education. When you give health education, you just tell, about the functioning, right? And how, we all come into the world, which a lot of times kids are going to figure this out before they even get in, say, middle school, right? So, I mean, you're talking about literature that speaks about relationships and fantasies and explicit activities, and this is going to be on the bookshelves and the school libraries. See, when I was in school before 2020, before schools shut down, I have been in schools with elementary and middle schools. I didn't see that. Why wasn't that a part of the literature in the libraries in 2004, 2007, 2018, 2019? Yeah, there are books about boy meets girl and attraction. Yeah. Kids, it's good that kids read about relationships, but not explicit relationships. Right. He looks at her, right, and when he looked at her, he knew it was love at first sight, even though what do they know sometimes about love at first sight when they are, 10 years old. Okay, so I'm making stuff up, but you know what I mean. You don't go but so far in having books in the library about relationships and attraction. But then, we roll out and we go now post 2020, and under the title of inclusion, all of these behavior practices, and especially referring to a sexualization, is showing up in schools with kids younger and younger. I mean, much younger than even high school. What's going on, educators, here in America? Are we still doing background checks with teachers? It's a fair question. I've gone through several just to make sure I was safe in the classroom with young minds, and rightly so. I had to make sure that I present myself professionally and watch my language and how I relate to children, so there is no confusing and blurred messages. And how would an educator have a child write a paper about explicit love and sexual fantasies? How is that really presenting yourself as a professional educator that is trustworthy to be around children? I think that's a very fair question. I'm just really putting out there. especially to the schools now around the United States of America. Oh, you're saying it's so that they won't discriminate different types of people with different sexual orientations than what we call the normal relationships between male and female? Because I'm asking this question. I haven't been in schools in a while. This is not the way that you would teach children not to discriminate by giving them explicit literature that describes what takes place in certain types of relationships. That's not logical. I mean, yeah, you're teaching kids not to hurt and harass and to, attack those who don't think and believe like them and raise in their type of family value system. You don't do that. You just don't do that by having them read about what others are doing explicitly. You don't sexualize more your literature on your library shelves. You teach them what it means that if they are around other kids who come from a different family background and value system, or if they're around kids who do not think the way they think about their sexuality, or if they're around kids that have what we call a gender expression, where they will come to school even though you can see that they are a boy, they are choosing to wear clothes that are the social styles for women. What you don't want is to have the whole entire classroom laughing at and making fun of that child. And as a teacher, that's what I would definitely advise my students to do. Do not pick on them and make fun of them and call them names. You don't have to be their friend. You don't have to be with them on the playground. You don't have to sit with them and have lunch. For the kids that do and want to, that's up to them if they want to be a student's friend. That's what you teach. That's what we call, really inclusion, is that because people do things that are different from us or that we don't like and accept and we don't believe in it, that still we're not to go after them and cause harm to them. Not a mental abuse or physical abuse. Now, obviously, a child that stands out that much will be noticed, will be stared at. It's just like if you have a kid who decides to come in a Ronald McDonald suit one day. How can you not really be noticed? But as an educator, you set the boundaries of appropriate conduct towards all students, all types of students, all backgrounds of students. That's what you do. But you don't have to have them read about explicit sexual behavior of all types of students in literature. I don't have all the answers, but you don't have to be in school teaching a day in your life not to know there's a difference between protecting the vulnerable, those who are different and look different and believe differently, that they're not bullied and terrorized in school, than from saying that, well, you understand better about these types of people and students if you read books that are expressing explicit sexual behavior. Wrong. Wrong. That doesn't have to be in the curriculum or as this classroom rules. Classroom rules is you treat all students fairly and create an anti-bully environment in every classroom. And that's what we do as educators. Not have kids writing about sexual fantasies of theirs or anyone else that they know. And I'm not talking about even older kids. Elementary school kids don't need those assignments. Or middle school kids. And discussing any sexuality, even with older students, requires some discretion. Thank you for listening from the heart of an educator to another educator in the school system. You can like and subscribe. Shalom.